Hello and welcome to the third episode of Griff Sports. I'm Kyle Ferrara.
And I'm Brandon Rudd. Kyle, we got an exciting show lined up for everyone today. Kyle, what's going on in today's episode?
Well, we'll preview some of the sports coming up this spring, talk with Griff's power forward Chris Manhertz, and women's basketball coach Terry Zay joins us for the first ever installment of the Golden Griffin's Coach's Perch.
Normally at this time, we'll take you around the MAC, but today we're going to change things up a bit this week. Our own Alex Buteman got a chance to talk with Griff's synchronized swimmer, Junior Jessica Mancini, as he previews the upcoming synchro season.
The Canisius College women's synchronized swimming team has opened this season with a splash. The team opened the season by beating last year's national runner-up, University of the Incarnate Word. In Week 2, they beat both Wheaton College and Penn State in the Canisius Invitational. This success is nothing new for the team, however, as it has won 15 straight ECAC conference titles in synchronized swimming. The goal this season, according to head coach Jill Wright, is not only to make it 16 straight ECAC titles, but also to put on a strong showing at the national competition.
We're going to be heading out to California for collegiate nationals around the end of March, and we're expecting to pull out really good swims. It's going to be a really high level of competition because the entire Olympic team, they're all back at their respective schools, so the level of competition should be really high. We have nationals on the mind from day one, I would say. Once every meet comes, we'll focus on that meet. Probably like the week before, we'll really focus on getting everything cleaned up for that meet, but the main goal, our main focus is nationals. The routine is judged artistically and technically. When looked at artistically, it's how you interpret the music, the choreography, how well you present it to the judges, how well you perform it. And if you look at it technically, it's how high you are out of the water, how matched and synchronized you are, how matched you are to the music, the level of difficulty that your routine is, and things like that. We work hard on, in all of our routines, but I think personally my favorite this year is our team routine. It's rock and roll. We all really love to swim it. It's challenging, but it's fun at the same time, and I think that it already did get a really good response from the judges we've seen so far, and several of them were national judges that we will see in later competition.
The team will travel to Norton, Massachusetts this weekend to participate in the Wheaton Invitational before heading to the ECAC Championships in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 2 weeks. Reporting for Griffin TV, this has been Alex Spielman.
An interesting preview put together by Alex. The Griffs have won their first 2 meets, putting up 87 points in each one. Brandon, what are your thoughts on synchronized swimming?
Well, I see a lot of positives and negatives here. I mean, sure, they're undefeated. They're 2-0 so far. They had excellent performance in sunny winds, but it's too early in the season. I think they need more meets to see where they're going. So I think slow and steady, and I'm not going to get too ahead of myself throughout the season.
Well, you're right. It's still early, and they're going to have a lot of time to keep improving. My thoughts on synchronized swimming is that it seems like the ultimate team sport because every swimmer really needs to be in perfect unity. It'll be interesting to follow the Griffs all year long as they chase after nationals. 4 other sports are getting ready to start their season: baseball, softball, and both men's and women's lacrosse. Women's lacrosse begins their regular season play on Sunday. Baseball and softball play their first games next weekend, while men's lacrosse opens up their schedule on February 23rd. We'll talk about all these teams in more detail next week.
But before we do that, we would like to congratulate the pitchers Garnett Corwright and Jen Console for the preseason MAC honors, as they were both voted to the respective preseason All-MAC teams.
It's a great honor for both Garrett and Jen. And in the preseason coaches poll, baseball was ranked second in the MAC, while softball was voted into a tie for third.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to take you around the MAC.
And we'll debut the Golden Griffin's Coach's Perch with women's basketball head coach Terry Zay.
Stay with us. This is Griff Sports.
If you can sit with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. 'Cause every kid across the nation deserves a book to read, and we can make it happen right now. No, I don't know what you've been told, but so much more.
So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child.
So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion.
Come on, have a good time.
Plant seeds of inspiration to motivate some magic.
To change the writing on the wall, writing on the wall.
Book can make a difference. One book can inspire a child. One book can be the first thing that helps to change a life.
People unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Welcome back to hashtag Griff Sports. Before we get into our interview with Coach Zay, let's take you around the MAC.
And we start things out with women's basketball this time. From Thursday and Friday's action, Loyola beat Niagara 71-68 in a close battle between two middle-of-the-pack teams. And St. Peter's failed to stay within the win column as they fell to Fairfield 58-50. From the action this weekend, Manhertz stayed perfect with a 68-49 win against lowly St. Peter's, and Iona beat Fairfield 62-47 in a battle between second and third place teams in the MAC. Taking a look at the standings, Manhertz is still running away with things at the top, but second through ninth place is separated by only 4 games. It should make a lot of exciting action down the stretch.
And before we swing things over to the men's side, let's hit the ice to take a look at Atlantic hockey. On Friday, we saw Niagara continue their domination of the conference as they beat Bentley 2-1. The rest of the week featured 6 games that were decided by 3 or more goals. Mercyhurst did most of the damage as they beat both Army and Robert Morris by scores of 8-1. So the standings are still pretty similar. They're also similar to the women's basketball standings in MAC play. Niagara is at the top with 1 loss, while second through ninth place are separated by just 2 losses. Sacred Heart still has not won a game.
And now we round things out by talking about the men's basketball plays. There was a lot of action between the top 4 teams in the conference. On Thursday, Niagara barely got past Iona, winning 93-90. While, of course, your Golden Griffins beat Loyola 91-79. Also, we had 2 close games on Saturday. Loyola upset Niagara, winning 89-87, and the Griffs beat Iona 77-74 in their most exciting win of the season. So looking at the standings, it's tight at the top. Niagara is in first place, and they hold a 2-game lead against Loyola, Canisius, and Iona, who are all tied for second place at 84. Also, Fairfield has moved within 2 games of second place with their 2 wins over the weekend.
Brandon, you just showed us the MAC standings, and you're right, it is very tight at the top between Niagara, Loyola, Canisius, and Iona. The Griffs played all 3 of these teams in their last 3 games. What is your insight on how they'll fare against each other down the stretch?
Well, it's going to be a really tough stretch for the Golden Griffins, as they have to play mostly all their games on the road. They only have a couple of games at home, and those will be their final games. I think it's going to be a very tough way to go out, but I think they could do something right here.
Oh, it absolutely will be tough, but I agree. I think they're in a good position to be successful. They will play Niagara one more time. That's coming up on Sunday, and also Loyola one more time. Iona will square off with Loyola again before we reach the MAC tournament. 3 of these teams will be featured on ESPN in their Bracket Buster series. The Griffs, of course, drew Vermont, who they will play in Vermont on February the 23rd on ESPN3. Iona will play at Indiana State earlier that same day, while Niagara will host Northwestern State on ESPN3 immediately following the Griffs game. Loyola is the lone team of the 4 to not have their game televised. They'll take on Tennessee State.
Those games will give all the MAC teams a chance to make their case on the national stage. Last year, we saw 3 teams out of the MAC in the tournament. If these 4 continue to play well, we could see multiple teams in the tournament again this year.
And with that, let's debut our Golden Griffins Coach's Perch. This week's guest is the head coach of the Griffs women's basketball team, Terry Zay.
I'm Kyle Ferrara here with the head coach of the Golden Griffin women's basketball team, Terry Zay. Terry, thanks for
being with us today. For those viewers who might not know you as well as others do, you've been the coach for 9 years, and you were here as assistant before that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a men's assistant for 7 years before that, so I'm in my 16th year here at Canisius in Buffalo, New York, and it's been 16 great years. We love Canisius for all the things that it offers to student athletes, and it's been a lot of fun. I've always thought that at a big place, where you have your Alabamas and your Syracuses, people go and they cheer for the team, the Orangemen, the Crimson Tide. A place like Canisius, people go to cheer for their friends.
Now, this is the first time we've gotten to talk to you for Griffin TV, so there's certainly a lot to catch up on. First of all, just what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses for your team?
Well, I think we have some senior leadership right now that's been very strong and helping us through our season. We started out a little bit tough, but I thought that those seniors who have been through a lot stayed really, really strong in the face of that adversity and helped us turn it around and get it going as we enter league play. So I think we're very multifaceted. Some teams have one particular player that's what they, other teams will key on, and she's going to be 17 points a game or whatever. I think we have a group of players that can score the basketball and do different things. So we're difficult to defend at times because we can score in the post with some of our post players, and we can score in the perimeter with our guards. So I think that's what makes us tough.
You mentioned the post player there. So getting into that, I know a couple weeks ago I had heard a stat that isn't all that good. If you want to win games, your post players are shooting about 25% in the paint. Do you think that they're starting to improve? I know you messed around with the starting lineup a little bit to try to get everything going. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those things that we sort of were going through a tough stretch. We weren't able to get the basketball in there the way we wanted, and there's a lot of things that go into that. It's not just the guards or the post, and I think it was maybe a little lack of communication. But we sat down with our post players and had a pretty frank conversation, like, well, boy, here's where we are. We're way better than this. And since that time, it's been an absolute change. And I haven't looked at the statistics in the last couple games since then, but it's clearly a lot better. We're scoring inside more and getting better, rebounds. Jamie had 13 and 9 yesterday. And those things are big, but definitely, sometimes you're going through, and then when you look at it, and you look at those numbers, how grim they are, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's a problem. And I think they took it upon themselves to make a change, and really in practice on a daily basis is where they made a change.
Do you think you're going to go with a more consistent starting lineup now that everybody's starting to get back together?
I don't think so. I think we have on our team a lot of people that bring different skill packages against different kinds of teams. So not just the starting lineup, I think even just our rotation will be different depending on who we're playing.
Transitioning into Tiana a little bit, I remember when I was covering the Big Four Media Days a couple months ago, you had mentioned that point guard is probably the biggest question mark for your team. Do you think she's really filled that role as you expected?
Yeah, I think we have really 2 point guards that filled that role. Tiana and Brooke have done a really nice job, and they have different things that they each bring. They talk before practice. They communicate. Brooke communicates really well with Tiana, and when Tiana's in there with Ashley, because Ashley used to play the point for us, she's able to give her, okay, you got to do this, you have to do that. So the 2 of them, I think, have done a really nice job of running that point for us, and then it frees up Ashley to do some other things, which she's done really well, score the basketball, make some different kind of plays for us.
I'm not going to ask you about the shot itself that she hit, but as a coach, how do you feel for a player when they make a play like that?
You're so excited for them. Those are almost once in a lifetime, for any particular player, because if you get 1 or 2 of those a year, right, you don't have that many players that are getting that opportunity. So you're so excited for them to make that play. Tiana's very calm on the floor in those kind of situations, and she has the athleticism to really get that ball up on the rim from right where we're sitting right here. She made that shot. So as a coach, you're just so happy for somebody that makes a play, because it's her friends and teammates, and you saw them all jump on top of her and how excited they were for her and for the team. So it's fun.
Talk a little bit about the last 2 games we played this weekend against Manhertz.
Yeah, we went down to Marist, and we got down a little, big again, which we've been doing a little bit. We've talked about as a team, hey, let's try to not get down double digits early against everybody. It's particularly against a team like Marist, because that's a difficult road to come back. But I was really proud of the way we defended and battled back and really got back into that game and cut it into single digits and made them think a little bit. They had to make a couple big shots. And we did the same thing against Manhattan. We got down big. Like, wow, we're going to do this again. But we really buckled down, and I thought our intensity and how hard we played was great. And when you have a one possession game, you're going to go through a million things down the stretch where you wish you could have changed. And I made a couple mistakes at the end of the game, which I think hurt us. It didn't get us good looks at the basket in our last two possessions, and that's on me as a coach to get us, in a position for our players to make great plays, and I didn't do a good job of that at the end of that game.
Now, looking ahead, you've got Loyola and St. Peter's this week. How do you think your team matches up?
Yeah, I think that St. Peter's obviously got their first win a couple of weeks ago. They're the team that everybody doesn't want to play because they're able to do things defensively and athletically that other teams in our league can't. So we've got to make sure that we get them involved in some screening actions and get ourselves some good shots. The game down there, we started out real slow and then battled back. We were down 10 at the half and battled back and won by 10, which was a great second half for us. So hopefully we can start a little bit better and understand what got us down the first time down there and what's going to help us as we play them this week. And then Loyola, we had a nice win. We shot really well down there. We had a nice win where Katie Sheehan, who was preseason player of the year, was coming off of not playing for 10 days. So she played against us, but we didn't really get to see the real Katie Sheehan. She was a little bit hampered by 10 days off, and she's playing really well now that she's getting back in the flow.
Mm-hmm. So they should both be exciting games.
Yes, absolutely.
That was Terry Zay with his thoughts on his team. And as we come down the stretch, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll have Griff's power forward, Chris Manhertz, live in studio.
Stay with us. This is #Griff Sports.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
You're on your way to meet up with friends, but you can't seem to get anywhere quickly. You don't want your friends to be annoyed, so you text. You're on your way. Five seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting while driving. Make sure you get where you're going.
Welcome back. This is #Griff Sports, and I'm now joined by the junior power forward of the Griff's men's basketball team, Chris Manhertz. Chris, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So the first thing I want to ask you, and this is for the viewers who might not know you as well as some others do, how did you end up here at Canisius playing basketball?
Well, I ended up here. I was recruited since my sophomore year in high school, and they were the one program that really stuck with me. And ever since my official visit, I felt at home, and I love the atmosphere here.
And could you go ahead and describe your game in just a few words for us?
Well, my position is a power forward. I would like to believe that I do the dirty work on the team. Rebound and just play hard all the time.
And that mindset to kind of do the dirty work, where did you develop that? How did you become that kind of player?
I guess it's my upbringing from the Bronx. I always used to play at the park, and, I was always the little guy, playing with the older guys. So I guess that made me develop a sense of toughness, and it just followed me throughout my college career.
In the story in the Griffin about you, Nick Veronica mentioned your dad a lot. Can you talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, my dad is a blue-collar worker. He works for the Home Depot. He's very involved in my life, and I'm thankful for having him in my life.
Now, the student media here also has taken to giving you a nickname. I don't know if you've heard it, but Chris True Grit Manhertz. What are your thoughts on that name?
I mean, initially I was like, okay, I'll just take it and run with it. It's good that people acknowledge me for, my hard work and my play on the court. So you can't go wrong with that.
Any other nicknames that you've had? I know there's probably a play on words with the last name there.
Just play on words with my last name is Manhertz, so man horse, man beast, man child. You could go for days with, wordplay with that. So.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the team a little bit now. Obviously, there's a lot of change this year from the last 2 years. A lot of players here transfer, a new coach. Do you think there's one change specifically that's been the biggest, or is it a culmination of a lot of different changes?
I think it's a culmination of a lot of different things. Having, the transfers, Isaac Sosa, Billy Barron, Jordan Heath, as well as a, up-tempo style of play. It really changes the dynamic of things and how we play as a team.
What are your thoughts on Coach Barron?
Coach Barron is a good coach. You know, I love his passion for the game, his enthusiasm for the game, and you know, he really understands the game, and he's a good teacher.
So as the team's improved from last year to this year, do you think you've improved from last year to this year?
Yeah, I think most importantly, my confidence especially improved throughout, you know, my overall game. You know, that has been the main aspect, you know, and the reasons why, you know, me individually has been consistent this year.
Mm-hmm. Now, yesterday ESPN announced the Bracket Buster games. You guys drew Vermont. Does the team think about the NCAA tournament at all, or your focus is right now on the MAC tournament?
Well, at this point now, we're taking it one day at a time. Just taking it one step at a time and not looking too far ahead. We as a team, we know the ultimate goal is to win the MAC championship and go to the NCAA tournament. But for now, we're just taking it one day at a time.
Mm-hmm. And there's definitely a lot of competition with the top 4 teams of the MAC, you guys, Iona, Niagara, and Loyola. So out of those teams, do you think one is a bigger threat to you, or are they all equal?
You know, I really think it's all equal. The MAC is a very open league. You know, anybody could run away with this MAC championship. It's just a team that's hot during March is going to win the MAC championship.
Could you kind of make your case for why you guys are going to win the MAC championship?
Well, for one, we have a great deal of depth within the bench, and I think we're the most talented team in this, arguably the most talented team in this league. You know, we have, you know, Jordan Heath, who's a very versatile big man. He could step out and stretch the floor a little bit. We have a good point guard in Billy Barron who could make other people around him better and also score the ball, as well as Isaac Sosa and Harold Washington.
A lot of depth, a lot of different weapons. And now, Chris, every week we do what's called the Golden Performer of the Week. This week it is Jordan Heath for his performance on the 31st against Loyola, 21 points, 11 rebounds, 7 blocks. Can you talk about Jordan specifically a little bit?
Yeah, that was a monster game for him. I think that was pretty much a breakthrough game for him and a signature game for him. You know, like I said, he could step out and stretch the floor. He could shoot the ball, and you don't find a lot of people his size doing the things that he does. So it's only going to benefit us for the future.
Absolutely. And has having him alongside you helped develop your game?
Yes, especially stretching the floor. You know, it causes matchup problems when, you know, people's guarding me and him inside and outside the post. So it's good for us.
All right. Well, thanks again for being here, Chris. Again, this is Chris Manhertz, the Griff's power forward. Be sure to check out all the Golden Griffins games. They'll be on the road for their next 5. You can get the broadcast with Jay Moran. Chris, thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And as I just said, the Griff's next 5 games are on the road. But that's no reason not to rally around the team. In their last game against Iona, sitting in post-game, Coach Barron told us all that he wants that student attention. He wants the fans to pay attention to their team. And he has every right to demand that, as this is the first year in many seasons that the Griffs have been this competitive. So here's what I'm screaming this week. Keep the rallying going. Get excited. I know people are going down to Niagara on Sunday to cheer on the Griffs versus the Purple Eagles. It's going to be an exciting end of the year. There's going to be 2 home games at the end of the season after this 5-game trip. Be sure to go out, show your support, and let's see how far the Griffs can go this season. Now, let's turn it over to Brandon Rudd, who's just back with us for Rudd's Rant.
As you know, the NFL season has come to a close. But now we have a bigger question facing us as the season is over. What is the future going to be for the NFL? In 30 years, an NFL player just said that there might not even be an NFL, depending on its safety, Roger Goodell doing a horrible job, and just a bunch of people in the media not getting along together. Even Barack Obama came out and said that he would ponder a long time to see if his son, even if he had a son, if he would play football. So it's really a big question going on to the future of football, and hopefully we could get this settled before someone gets killed or injured during a play of football.
Let's certainly hope so. It is America's sport. And now let's end the show by taking a look ahead at what the Griffs are facing this week.
Well, it's Beat Niagara week as the Griffs will face the Purple Eagles 3 times this weekend as hockey plays against their arch rival twice, Thursday at home and Saturday on the road. And men's basketball will square off against the Purple Eagles in the rematch of the infamous buzzer beater game.
Women's lacrosse will get their season started in Louisville with a game on the 10th, while women's basketball plays twice at home against St. Peter's and Fairfield.
It should be an exciting weekend in Griff sports. That's all we have for you today. We'll be back next week, but until then, follow us on Twitter at GriffSports_19. I'm Brandon Rudd.
And I'm Kyle Ferrara. This is #GriffSports.
See you next weekend.